Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about the problems with the windows, which we already discussed. Mainly what we're going to do is put those windows into normal conversation with the customer, okay? So first what I'm going to do is briefly touch on the vinyl windows again. Okay, so as we know, vinyl windows have a significant amount of problems with them. They're just made inexpensive and cheap, okay? So what that means is when they're made cheap, they end up having problems very quickly, okay? So you can have a 5 or 10-year-old vinyl window that's going to be experiencing warping. It's going to be experiencing condensation and drafts, okay? To give you a little review of what we did, warping is when the sun beats down on the window, and then the window ends up starting to kind of melt and just warp a little bit. Now, oftentimes you can't notice this. A good way to notice it is by looking at the middle piece of the window, because that's usually what's going to start bowing down first. And what you're looking for there, guys, is just a little bit of bowing, okay? And that could be on the top of the window, and that could be on the middle of the window. It could even be a little bit of warping on the bottom of the window, okay? A little bit of warping goes a really long way. So, to put that into conversation, okay, before we get into that, the warping can cause condensation. It usually does cause condensation. Now, there's a couple different kinds of condensation, so let me tell you about the first kind. The first kind is seal failure. That's when you have a double pane window and the seal in between the panes of glass breaks, letting the argon gas, now remember, argon gas is the gas in between the panes of glass that makes the windows efficient, okay? That's when it makes the argon gas leak out, okay? Moisture gets in between the panes of glass, and that causes fogging and condensation in between the panes of glass. Now, this can cause a bunch of different problems. Number one, the windows, when that happens, probably aren't going to be that energy efficient. See, the UV rays, the sun, the heat, the cold, is all coming in straight into the house. There's no buffer there, okay, except for the glass, which, as we know, the glass is not what makes the window efficient. It's not mainly what makes the window efficient. Another issue that occurs is that of course, with the fogging in between the pane of glass, it will lower the home value. So, when you have windows that have a significant amount of fog in between the panes of glass, you're not going to be able to see outside of the window, and also people aren't going to be able to see them. Well, I mean, not in a good way. If somebody comes and looks at your house, it's not going to be very attractive. Obviously, that will lower the home value. They're going to know that they have to do the windows, and that's going to be an extra expense added on to their responsibilities when they move into the house. Which, if any of you guys have ever looked at buying a house before or anything like that, you know, eliminating any expenses that you possibly can is really a good thing. So, other issues that can occur with vinyl, being that it's cheap, it can start to become hard to open and close. The normal issues that occur, it can be hard to clean. It can be hard to lock securely. Okay. Besides that, the sun also beats down the color of the material. The material will start to fade. It will also start to oxidize. You'll start to see white powdery substance kind of come out of the window. Okay. Mold. Vinyl's prone to mold, which can definitely become an issue. Yeah, I mean, that pretty much covers the majority of the problems. Now, the way the conversation should go, I'm just going to play it out for you. Knock, 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 knock. Hi, how you doing? My name is Paul Duffy. I'm with Renewal by Andersen Windows. We just recently did some work in the area right over on 123 Main Street, 124 Main Street, and 125 Main Street. So I was just coming around to speak to some homeowners about the neighborhood promotions. But first, let me ask you, how old are your windows? Okay, and how many windows do you have that are still about 20 years old? Okay, wow, now they're all vinyl windows? All right, great. Now, what kind of problems have you been experiencing with the 20-year-old vinyl windows here? Okay, so you really haven't noticed many. Well, I couldn't help but notice walking up that there was a little bit of condensation in between the panes of glass. Have you noticed the same thing? All right, well, let me point it out to you quickly. Okay. All right, now, the way that starts, typically the vinyl windows start to warp. They let the argon gas out, and then the moisture gets in between the panes of glass. Now, you'll start to see issues with energy efficiency after that. I'm sure you've been experiencing drafts, or have you just been experiencing a little bit of cold spots? Just a little bit of cold spots? Okay. Well, that can definitely significantly raise the average monthly energy bill. So what would you say that average monthly energy bill is here? About $250 a month. Well, it's definitely something that we can lower for you. Now, other issues that we see with vinyl windows typically is that they get hard to open and close, and this can happen after just a couple of years. So being 20 years old, I would imagine that you're experiencing that same problem. Okay. And I would imagine that they're hard to lock securely too. How many windows do you have that are hard to lock securely? Okay. Now, Do these windows tilt into clean? Are they hard to tilt into clean anyways? Okay. Well, a lot of customers that we talk to with 20-year-old vinyl windows, I mean, they're not just happy with the look, they're just not happy with the look, rather, and they're experiencing home value loss, something that can, maybe isn't a pain right now, but can be a pain when it comes time to sell the house. But before I get into that, I just want to let you know that we can definitely help you out with these problems, and that's exactly why we're here. You see, here at Andersen, we understand these things, and what I'm going to do is take down a detailed list of notes so we can make sure we give to the design specialist. But have you ever heard of Andersen Windows before? Okay. So that's kind of how the conversation can go there. You'll notice at the end I sympathize with the customer a little bit. That's what we call sympathizing with the customer. And basically what that is, we finish up with something like, well, we can definitely help you and your family. I'm very happy that we stopped by. And then we dive right into, have you ever heard of Andersen Windows before? Okay. Now, you don't need to get all of the problems in the first conversation. After we get done with the close, after we ask the customer for their phone numbers, we're going to go back into the window conversation. At that point, what we're going to do is we're going to say, I did notice that, I mean, we did talk about your windows being drafty, and we did talk about them having condensation. What other kind of problems have you been experiencing with these 20-year-old vinyl windows? At that point, they may say none. I'm still going to try to pull out the rest of the problems that we didn't talk about. So, for example, we talked about most of the issues, but something that I might bring up is, okay, well, usually when we talk to homeowners, the homeowners in the area that we've been talking to have been experiencing a lot of mold growth in the windows. I noticed a little bit of that here. How many windows would you say that you've been experiencing that on? Okay, and they might say none, or just what you have here, or something like that. It doesn't really matter. Okay. After that, I'm going to go back into my warm down. So the way that would work again is, okay, what's your name? All right, and your last name, and your address here. Okay, and the phone number, and your cell. Okay, in case you step out, are there any other numbers that we could reach you at? Okay, great. Well, we did talk about the windows having some condensation. We talked about them, being a little bit drafty or not energy efficient. Besides those issues, what other kind of problems have you been experiencing with these 20-year-old vinyl windows? Okay, you haven't seen any other problems? Okay, well, I just want to let you know, I've been talking to a lot of your neighbors, obviously, and going door to door, typically what I've seen with the neighbors is a lot of mold growth in the windows. It's something that we didn't talk about. I couldn't help but notice a little bit around the corners of your windows. Have you noticed that at all? And how many windows have you noticed that on? Okay, great. All right, well, besides that, are there any other issues that we didn't discuss? Okay. Well, just so you know, this is a totally free service. The only thing that we do require is that you set aside at least 60 minutes, whether we need it or not, so on and so forth. Okay. Now I'm going to go through that conversation again in the beginning and then towards the end. And I'm going to go through it a little bit slower than I did last time. Okay. How old are your windows here? Okay. Are they all 20 years old? Okay. And they are all vinyl, correct? Okay, great. What kind of issues have you been experiencing with these 20-year-old vinyl windows? Well, I don't know. They're a little bit drafty and maybe not energy efficient. But besides that, haven't really noticed any issues. Okay, well, obviously there's a problem for the drafts here. What would you say your average monthly energy bill is, by the way, while we're on it? Wow, $250 a month. Definitely something that we can lower for you. Now, a lot of times when we talk to customers with these older vinyl windows, they've been experiencing a lot of warping in the windows, something that you might not have noticed. But have you noticed the warping? No, you haven't? Okay. Well, another way to see if you have warping is the windows become hard to open and close. Now, I'm sure you've been experiencing something like that. Are they real hard to open and close or just a little bit? Okay, just a little bit. Okay. And now, are they hard to clean as well, or do they tilt in? They all tilt in to clean. Okay. Now, I would imagine that you've been having some problems with the locks. How many windows do you think that you have here that are hard to lock securely? Oh, all of them are. Okay, great. Now, besides those issues, a lot of times when we talk to homeowners with the vinyl windows, we see a little bit of condensation. Now, I don't see it on the front windows here, but as far as the back goes, have you been experiencing any condensation? Oh, just a little bit. Okay, great. Well, I'll definitely take a note of that. Now, I'm very happy that we stopped by. We're here to help you and your family. And I'm glad that we can take care of these issues for you. But have you ever heard of Andersen Windows before? You have. Okay, great. Well, then you know that we have the best windows you can have for your home. Our windows are up to 56%. Our Lowy glass is up to 56%, so on and so forth. Okay. Then I fast forward through the script down to the close. Now, what I can do for you is arrange for a design specialist to come out, take a look at your windows, see how we could possibly help you. and of course leave you with that free quote. Again, my name is Paul. What's your name? Okay, and your last name? Okay, great. And the address here? All right, and your phone number? And your cell? Okay, and in case you step out, are there any other numbers that we can reach you at? All right, great, excellent, thank you. And I know that we did talk about the windows having a little bit of condensation, some drafts, and the windows not being as energy efficient as they used to be. But besides that, have you been experiencing any other problems? What other problems have you been experiencing, Rob? None? Okay. Well, a lot of times when we talk to homeowners with the vinyl windows, we see some issues with mold. And now I know you must have been experiencing some issues with mold, correct? You haven't? Okay. A lot of times you won't even notice it. Just take a look for it maybe when you go inside. Besides that, a lot of times we see other issues such as home value loss. I don't know if we discussed that, but have you seen a loss in your home value? Okay, great, excellent. Well, just so you know, this is a totally free service. All we do require is that you set aside at least 60 minutes, whether we need it or not, and we come out to discuss the project. We meet with all the owners of the property, whether that be a spouse, family member, significant other. All right, I'm going to stop there. I hope you have a better understanding for the conversation that you're supposed to have with these customers about the problems with the windows. To ensure that you do, I'm going to go through a couple steps that you can take to have that conversation. We actually were just discussing this in a meeting at work earlier today, after shift. The biggest thing that was brought up is the first thing that you should do is ask them what kind of problems they've been experiencing with their blank year-old windows, okay? So what kind of problems have you been experiencing with your 20-year-old vinyl windows, okay? Now, they may say none, but they also may say a ton of them. They might just say drafts, though. They might just say hard to open and close. They might just say hard to lock securely. You know, they could say anything. The point is, it might give you a step ahead, and it starts off the conversation, and they get to start off the conversation. They gain control first, okay? And then you take it back. So if they say none, you dive right into the problems. Okay, well, I couldn't help but noticing walking up that you have had a little bit of condensation in between the panes of glass here. Now, I'm sure you might not have even noticed that, but condensation can lead to a lot of other issues, such as drafts. Now, have you been experiencing drafts, or have you been experiencing just a little bit of cold spots? Then you're giving them the forced choice, drafts or cold spots. You don't have any other choice. You're connecting the problem from condensation to drafts or cold spots. Okay, they're going to pick one of those. Let's say that they pick cold spots. That's fine. Okay, and most of the customers that we talk to just experience a little bit of cold spots. Usually it's not a big wind gust coming through the window, but it still becomes an issue for energy savings. Now, with that being said, what would you say your average monthly energy bill is here? They could say $200 a month. They could say $500 a month. You're going to want to follow up with, okay, great, well, we can definitely lower that for you. Okay? And then you're going to barrel roll right into the other problems. And you might say something like, oftentimes with vinyl windows, we notice that they become hard to open and close. How many windows here do you have that are hard to open and close? Okay. Now, I would imagine that your windows are probably hard to lock securely. How many would you say are hard to lock securely? Okay. Usually that turns into a natural conversation. The customer will start feeding into your conversation with them and into the problems with their windows. And this sets up a great lead for you. Now, you might notice that the customer gets a little bit frustrated. Maybe they don't want to talk about it. Maybe they keep denying the fact that they have the problems with the windows. What you should do in that case is jump right into the, have you ever heard of Andersen Windows before? Because you're going to get a positive yes answer from this. When you get that positive yes answer, okay, you're going to dive right into the features and benefits. That's when you would ask the problems with the windows after the appointment's already set up. All right? So that was a piece on vinyl windows. Please let me know if you have any questions. Use your booklet as a guide and use the problems with the windows as a guide. The vinyl versus Fibrex as a guide as well. Okay, thank you very much. And the next part that you'll see will be the wood windows. I'll send it over in a minute. Thank you.